Good Tuesday morning and welcome to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Tyler Kieft alongside Ronnie Dahl in the studios of Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM, our flagship stations for the Oakland County Megacast. The Megacast also on Birmingham area municipal access. Both of our TV outlets on Comcast Channel 15 and AT&T Channel 99. You can also watch us online in high definition in a couple of places today. As always, civiccentertv.com/watch-live or click on the Watch Live button on our homepage on your computer, on your laptop, on your tablet, or on your phone. We're also on the Facebook page of the West Bloomfield Township Fire Department today, our Facebook partner, and thank them for joining with us as they do all so often. We will have Chief Greg Flynn on with us in just a few minutes after we go through today's headlines. On the radio, of course, 89.3 Lakes FM and lakesfm.com. We're also joined in Bloomfield Hills and the surrounding area by 88.1 WBFH, The Biff, under the leadership of station manager Ron Whittables. And WAHS 89.5 Avondale Community Radio. That's a service of Avondale Schools, located out of Avondale High School, under the leadership of Marty Schaefer, the station manager, and their engineer, Keith Fraley, both of whom get us on the air each and every day in Auburn Hills, Rochester, Pontiac, and those surrounding areas. That makes up our Megacast family of TV and radio stations. And Ronnie, a very interesting day of headlines ahead of us at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. Governor Whitmer will hold a press conference at 3 p.m. today. We will have that live for you right here on Lakes FM and on Civic Center TV. Governor Whitmer is planning to give a live press conference, and it is expected she will address her back-to-school plan for the fall of 2020. We spoke to Tanya Allen last week, who is the chairperson of Governor Whitmer's Return to Learn Council, who said that plan was expected to come on late this week and by the 1st of July, which is the new fiscal year for our local schools.
A lot of people waiting for this announcement, a lot of teachers, a lot of principals, and a lot of parents as well. I don't think parents are going to be getting a break from their kids. I think kids are still going to be at home at least part of the time.
I would agree. I think that it's going to be a hybrid situation. Because we don't know when COVID's going away, and that's kind of got to be the precautionary measures, because you can teach social distancing, you can maintain and enforce social distancing and mask wearing in a school. And if schools are able to provide options like, for example, West Bloomfield has announced they're allowing options for parents to say, all right, we're going to keep our kids at home and do all distance learning, or I want my kids in school every day, they're going to be in school every day. You can put those measures in place, but we don't know how COVID-19 is going to continue to go, how this pandemic's going to continue to go in the several months going forward. And for all we know, we could be in the situation in the fall where you have to pull back and go all virtual again. So having those hybrid systems in place allows you to pull back without it being such a sudden change like it was in March. So Governor will be speaking 3 o'clock today. Also will be, I would expect, either her or Dr. Jonay Caldoun from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services to address the recent uptick in cases in several places throughout Michigan. Some good news, some bipartisan news. The governor and the state legislature have announced a plan to balance the state's 2020 budget. A Republican-controlled legislator and the governor reached an agreement yesterday to balance the state budget after a sharp drop in state revenues due to the pandemic. Governor Whitmer said in a joint statement with Michigan House Speaker Lee Chatfield and Senate Majority Leader Mike Shirkey, quote, COVID-19 has had an unprecedented impact on our state budget in a time of crisis it is our responsibility to come together and build a budget that reflects bipartisan commitment to the things that we value most as Michiganders. The agreement provides crucial funding for Michigan families, schools, and communities grappling with the costs incurred as a result of the virus. Moving on to an update on the situation out of Harper's in East Lansing. The COVID-19 cases as a result of an outbreak that began has been traced back to Harper's is now over 100 cases. Last night, the total number of cases traced to Harper's in East Lansing reached 107 residents of 13 Michigan counties. the mayor of New York is now citing the outbreak from Harper's Bar in East Lansing as an example of why he's delaying reopening restaurants and dining rooms. Trish Riley, co-owner of Harper's, says, quote, "We have to get the numbers. If we don't get the numbers, we don't know what's out there." So situation continuing to develop from what happened at Harper's in East Lansing and then spread to Grosse Pointe. It's believed that, and then some other places as well. It's causing some caution, and I'm sure Governor Whitmer will be addressing that today in a press conference as well. And we'll talk later on with Lynn Sufton from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services to kind of get an idea, because you brought up something interesting over the last couple of days. We're seeing all these new cases, but we're not really hearing about hospitalizations. So I'm not sure if that's because they're not being reported or if it's too early on in the situation for symptoms to be that severe, or if it's because a lot of these people infected are younger people and hospitalizations aren't necessarily something that is needed right now.
Exactly. It is a lot of the younger demographics. So at first we were saying COVID wasn't hitting younger people, but now we are seeing that that's not the case. They are being infected with COVID-19. However, it's not so severe, it seems to at this point, that it requires for them to go into the hospital. But this is a great case to show how quickly this virus can spread, and we are going to start to see this happening more and more with other restaurants as well. We're seeing that already in Royal Oak.
Yes, lots of other places in the state of Michigan also starting to see, a few other places in the state of Michigan now starting to see COVID-19 cases originating in their locations. Other things making news at CivicCenterTV.com. Legionnaire's disease case is confirmed at a nursing home in Bloomfield Hills. Legionnaire's disease, which mimics a lot of the symptoms of COVID-19, has popped up at the SKLD Bloomfield Hills, which is a nursing home and long-term care facility in the county area. The Oakland County Health Department apparently began investigating this situation on June 8th. Cases of Legionnaire's disease can result in hospitalization and people being put on a ventilator. Health officials are worried that the bacteria could spread to the facility's water system, and water restrictions are currently in place at the facility. We are working on getting someone from the Oakland County Health Department to join us on the show in the 11 o'clock hour to talk about that. We'll let you know if we do get someone. We may be able to bring that up in our short conversation with Lynn Sufton later on this hour. Lastly, the University of Michigan Board of Regents has approved a budget that includes a 1.9% tuition increase. While many colleges and universities across the state have decided to freeze tuition costs, it looks like the University of Michigan will have a 1.9% tuition increase and also a temporary $50 per term COVID-19 fee. U of M will also provide a 5.6% increase in undergraduate financial aid to cover the entire cost of tuition increases for in-state students. The $50 per term COVID-19 fee is said by officials to help cover the costs of testing and safety-related services. Students will also be hit with a 1.9% increase in their university health services fee. That story and more online at CivicCenterTV.com/coronavirus. If you go to CivicCenterTV.com, right at the top of our homepage on your web browser, and it'll be in the sidebar on your mobile phone, you'll be able to click on coronavirus, and we have updated stories for you each and every day right there on our website. We update that on the daily, and including some breaking news as it comes in, like yesterday when we had the news come at the beginning of the show about the Woodward Dream Cruise. That was up on our website by the end of showtime, so we keep that updated for you, keep you informed, and that's really what we are here to do. So 4th of July weekend is coming up, big holiday weekend. Lots of celebrations are oncoming, and with that comes fireworks. A lot of these fireworks shows are canceled or have been canceled or are going to be canceled, and people are buying their own consumer fireworks. There are some safety issues that come along with that. And joining us now on the program to talk about how we can avoid some of those safety issues becoming a problem is Chief Greg Flynn from the West Bloomfield Fire Department. Chief Flynn, welcome to the program.
Tyler, Ronnie, good morning.
Good morning, Chief. How are you? How are your firefighters?
We are doing well, thank you. We've had a nice stretch of warm weather, and the sun is out. Things are going well here in West Bloomfield.
Last time we had you on, you talked about yourself and some of your other firefighters on your team as well, taking some days to rest as the COVID-19 pandemic response sort of slow down a little bit, catch your breath a little bit, take some time for yourselves? Are you guys feeling refreshed and re-energized?
We are, and I'm recognizing that a dog can be more popular on this show than the fire chief. So I think that was a nice addition, bringing Ruby.
Yeah, Ruby was a fan favorite. We definitely enjoyed having Ruby on with us. So, residents are now legally allowed to set off fireworks now through July 4th until 11:45 p.m. at night, each night leading up to the 4th holiday. Any helpful tips for residents to stay safe in celebrating the holiday without having to call your department for help?
Sure. By far the safest way to enjoy the holiday and to enjoy fireworks display is to attend a professional show. One of the shows that's set up, that's pre-inspected, that has a permit process that we go through, that has a safety radius for everybody to enjoy a safe fireworks display. That is by far the best way for folks to enjoy a show.
But Chief, let me ask, have you issued any permits? Are there any professional shows actually going on, or have they all been canceled?
Nope, there are some shows going on. I believe our first one, and we can get that information to you. I don't have them all memorized off the top of my head, but I think the first one is Friday that I heard in a briefing on Monday. But those shows, we're encouraging folks that attend those and those that are the program sponsors for those shows to, again, the physical distancing to be part of it, for folks to just really keep all of the guidance that we've been suggesting, to continue to follow through on all of that. You're probably hearing the crew getting dispatched out on a medical there. I apologize for the sound there.
All right, Chief Greg Flynn with us from the West Bloomfield Township Fire Department on the Oakland County Megacast. So people will ultimately be using their own fireworks regardless. The consumer fireworks sales have skyrocketed because of a lot of these shows being canceled or around the area. So in terms of people that are using their own fireworks and are using these flammables and the explosives, what can they do to make sure they're operating their own little shows and using their fireworks safely in order to prevent fires and other major injuries?
Right. So I think it's really important that we recognize that people are able to legally utilize the fireworks on their property. They're not allowed to launch them from the roadway. They're not allowed to go to other public spaces, wide open spaces that you might think would be a safe place to do it, like a local school or a local place of worship that may have a big open field. You are not allowed to go there and launch from those sites. You need to keep all of those away from combustibles as well. So dry grass, dry lawn clippings, those types of things. All of that you want to stay clear of. And you also want to make sure that you have some kind of extinguisher with you. So whether that's a hose or a commercial extinguisher, a bucket to put the fireworks after you're all done and you're cleaning up and you want to put those away. We encourage you to soak those before you put those into a canister. One of the biggest fires I've been on in my career here, two of them actually. One of them was from on a New Year's Eve fireworks display where the folks put the fireworks into a trash can, put them into their garage afterwards, and there was a large structure fire as a result of that. And the other one was the Fruhoff fire, which was a result of a firework underneath I believe the ultimate determination was up there on the roof somewhere, and that sparked the fire, and that was a large fire as well. But both directly related to fireworks. And Tyler, there's been countless boat fires where people are doing it down they're setting these off at a beach, or they're launching them off from their property but out away from their beach, and then those come to rest on neighbors' boats, neighbors' docks, and they start a fire.
Chief Greg Flynn with us from the West Bloomfield and Tri-City Fire Departments on the Oakland County Megacast. So in these situations, a lot of times people are lighting their fireworks and maybe they don't go off or they don't entirely go off, and they're wondering, okay, what am I supposed to do with this? Do I put it to the side and leave it there? Do I try to relight it? Do I throw it away? What should people do in the case of a misfire or a non-fire to keep themselves safe from these potentially very deadly instruments?
Right. The last thing that we want to do is try to reignite a firework that didn't go off. You also don't want to lean over top of the firework to see down into the tube, if you will, if there's something going on. just consider that to be a dud. We're going to leave that off to the side for a few minutes, make sure that it's not going to go off, and then we're just going to douse and soak that firework as well, and make sure that it's completely extinguished and no longer is a threat or a risk to those that are enjoying the show there.
Are you a little bit concerned because we've not had a lot of rain? It is very dry out there right now.
Oh, Ronnie, that's a great point. And, you know, this is where I have a great deal of confidence in the residents of West Bloomfield, Sylvan, Kego, and Orchard. They're critical thinkers. They're smart when it comes to their situational awareness. And I'm very confident that our residents recognize that. And that's why so many of our residents will enjoy a public show. Or even this year, I'm sure there'll be creative residents that get a data projector and a movie screen and just put a recorded show up for everyone. And we kind of maybe laugh at that a little bit, but it's a safe way that we can all enjoy fireworks, still embrace and celebrate the holiday and what it represents, but not put our neighbors at risk. You know, those that suffer from anxiety and post-traumatic stress as a result of the loud noises and the booms that the fireworks put off. And also our pets, you know, they're a loving part of our families for many of us, and the fireworks do contribute to some anxiety with them as well. And so overall, you know, enjoying a professional show is the way to go.
Chief Greg Flynn from the West Bloomfield and Tri-City Fire Departments with us on the Oakland County Megacast. In our local area, in the greater West Bloomfield area, in southeastern Michigan, in Oakland County, a hallmark of the summer season is people being out on the lakes, on boats, and in the water and on the beaches. And there's some safety concerns that go along with that, too. I know for sure in Kego Harbor, their police department does a lot of boater training every single year, and other local departments as well. People are back on the water. They're going out to do other recreational activities on top of just boating. What are some common safety issues that your department and other law enforcement and public safety departments run into over the summers with in terms of boating? And what are some preventative measures that can help prevent those?
Well, one of the things that bridges the gap between both of these topics, both fireworks and water safety, is the absence of alcohol when doing both of those things. Those don't mix with high risk, high hazard type things. We know that we have lost many lives to drownings in West Bloomfield over the course of my career, far too many. And one of the frustrating things about that is they're preventable, right? How do we prevent them? We wear a flotation device, or we have flotation devices available. We're aware of the occupants that are in our watercraft or on our watercraft, whether or not they are a good swimmer or not. And we don't ever take things for granted. You know, storms can blow in. We need to have a responsible plan for how we're going to get off of the water, or if there is an emergency on the water, we have to have a plan. You know, and that's what our friends up at Kego Harbor PD often, if there is a stop or there's an opportunity to have a touch point with the public to educate them, that's really what law enforcement is trying to do most of the time. You know, I've met many law enforcement officers over the course of my career, and they're not out to get people. What they're out to do is reduce risk and keep people safe. You know, that's what all of us in public safety are doing. You'll hear me say I'm the chief community risk officer for the Tri-Cities in West Bloomfield. You know, that's what my role is, not to come out and take away people's fun. It's to make sure that we're all enjoying our parks, our communities, our neighborhoods, our open spaces, the water, in a way that's respectable for everybody. You know, and that kind of even links in a little bit of this whole mask discussion at all of these events that you're talking about, whether you're on a boat or you're at the fireworks or you're going to the grocery store. You know, wearing your mask and keeping some physical distance is just a kind and respectful thing to do to others within our community.
It is, and that was something that I was going to touch on, because it is a concern with people that even in the comfort of their own homes, maybe they're inviting some friends over and they know that their family's safe, my family's safe, we're just hanging out and enjoying fireworks or shooting off some fireworks. You still have to maintain that distance, because unless you're cohabitating with someone, you could still potentially be asymptomatic and putting them at risk, or vice versa. So it's critical for these people to continue to take those precautions, even if they are comfortable with the other people and are fairly certain that they are healthy.
Well, Tyler, you and Ronnie led off with the story, the bar in Lansing, or East Lansing. You know, that demonstrates for us exactly what we're talking about. With a few precautions, we could have prevented that whole thing from happening. I get it. I get that people want to get out. I understand where they're coming from. All we're asking folks to do and instead is to take three things that we have been saying since two things since we've been saying since day one here: good hand washing and keep some physical or social distance. The thing that's been added in the past few weeks or months, and quite frankly, I apologize, I'm losing track of the time from where we started and where we are today, but we're asking people to wear a face covering. And there's so much confusion out there between what a face covering is, what a surgical mask is, and what an N95 mask is, what a healthcare provider would use. And Tyler, the problem is, and I go back to I think you and Dave had started that dictionary of terms that we have been using, and other members of other folks that have been on the show have used. But a mask is just too broad of a term for what we're asking people to do. I've seen colleagues and or just acquaintances on social media, posting literature that it's completely unfounded, completely just not germane to the conversation. Nobody is saying that a face covering is going to stop you from getting the coronavirus. I haven't heard any professionals saying that. What they're saying is it's protecting others from you if you are asymptomatic and spreading the disease, because it's droplet spread, and the face covering kills the distance, or shortens the distance that droplet can travel. It is that simple. And to hear people argue behind the physics of that by preventing that droplet that's contaminated with coronavirus from traveling further and getting to you, just doesn't make sense to me. And this isn't political. This isn't what network you watch or what party you affiliate with. This is just good disease mitigation.
Chief Greg Flynn with us on the Oakland County Megacast.
So one thing I want to ask, because the nature of your job and the job of your staff members, you cannot socially distance when you're trying to render aid or help someone. So what has your department taken out of this, and what are the good practices that you've learned and will continue on with even when this pandemic is over?
So great question, Ronnie. And one of the things that our crews start with every day is a medical surveillance, health screening, if you will. So their temperature is checked at the beginning of the shift and at the end of their shift. They go through a cleaning and disinfecting process within the whole station. What you can't really see behind me here on the floor is there's some demarcation lines that show a hot zone and a cold zone. So when the crews get back from a high risk run, that they actually are able to doff any of the gear that they have or any of the clothing that may be contaminated, and then move in and decon or decontaminate, if you will. Over my left shoulder here, you see in some of these openings back there, I don't quite have this weather person thing down. But there's a decontamination gun, so it's an electrostatic gun that we put a disinfectant fluid in, and then we're able to spray it, and that the charge that's put on those molecules takes that disinfectant and it creeps and gets all the way around, because the droplets repel each other. So they stack up, and it really encompasses the bars around the stretcher or the nooks and crannies inside of the ambulance. Those are things that are best practices. Our paramedics are wearing N95 masks, so that's blocking 95% of the particulate that's in the air from getting to them. So that's when you see an N95 or an N100, that's telling us how much particulate it's blocking. And so those are all things that they're doing. I have a stock of PPE over to the side of me here for gowns, gloves, masks, all of these things we're getting caught up on. I just had one of our logistics folks show up where, Costco has bleach wipes. They're out there, Ronnie. And what we're doing is we saw the trends all go down because folks were listening and they were doing the right thing. And I think they still are. Don't get me wrong. I think our narrative here locally is we are getting it and managing it very well. Where I'm struggling, and where I think some of your questioning is coming from, is we're getting fatigue from doing all of this. And we want to know when it's over. When can I stop doing this? When do I have, and even in your question, what are we going to adopt and keep going? You won't find a runner, a cloth runner, a carpet runner in the fire station anymore. It's down to the tile. Why? Because they can disinfect that very easily every single day and multiple times a day if we need to. And so some of those creature comforts that we've adopted in the engine house, we're doing away with because it helps keep us safer and healthy to serve the public.
Chief Greg Flynn with us on the Oakland County Megacast on a family of stations all throughout the local area. We are also on the Facebook page of the West Bloomfield Township Fire Department today. Chief Flynn, before we let you go, anything else that you'd like to touch on today?
Well, I guess I just want to reiterate that last point of, please stay vigilant, please stay strong. Make these best practices just part of your lifestyle. Hand washing has never been a bad thing. We're doing a little bit more of it. Let's keep doing that. Hand sanitizer, making it readily available so that you have that extra layer of protection. Remember, we clean, we disinfect. That's what we want to do. And we don't just disinfect. We clean something, get all the heavy material off, then we disinfect it. And remember with many of your disinfectants that there is a dwell time. So we don't just spray something and wipe it. Even if you read that Clorox wipe bottle, it says that it has to remain wet in order for it to disinfect completely. And by all means, please continue to wear a face covering. It is respectful. It is kind. It is what we do. If this whole hashtag West Bloomfield Strong really means something to us, then that's what wearing some kind of face covering. It says, hey, I respect you. You respect me, and we are going to get through this together. We are going to do our part so that we can open safely and we can buy this time until we get a vaccine. Because until that day comes, I think we're going to continue to struggle with what the finish line looks like. We need the vaccine, and we need to keep doing these best practices until we get there.
Well, Chief Flynn, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
Chief Greg Flynn from the West Bloomfield Fire Department with us on the Oakland County Megacast, and a lot of important information being told to us throughout that about safety for this upcoming holiday, but even more importantly about some motivation to continue on with the precautions that we're taking. More importantly, really, to continue on with those precautions as people are getting fatigued. We are clearly getting fatigued with all this face covering wearing, extra hand washing, the hand sanitizers, and all of that. And I think that it is starting to make people let their guards down a little.
I think it's important to hear this information from the individuals that are on the front lines, living it every day, and they have the experience and they have the knowledge, and getting it firsthand from them is important. And it's also a sense of comfort to know that the information you are getting is accurate information.
It is. It's very comforting to know that, Ronnie. Thank you for that. And we're going to take a really quick break. We'll come back with Clara Borer from the West Bloomfield Township Public Library and learn what's going on at the library over the summer, what services have returned, and what's going to go on with their summer reading program. It's always a really big thing here in the local area over the summer. That and more coming up on the Oakland County Megacast after this quick break.
Coronavirus has put us to the test. Now it's time to put it to the test. We've greatly expanded testing in Michigan. So people who think they may have COVID-19 with symptoms like fever, cough, and shortness of breath can get tested. And those without symptoms who work in public can now get tested, as they could carry the virus. Start by calling your healthcare provider or contacting a testing site near you. Learn more at michigan.gov/coronavirus test. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jonae Caldoon. I'm the Chief Medical Executive for the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. The people who are at highest risk of getting severely ill from COVID-19 are the elderly and those with chronic medical conditions. That includes people with heart disease, diabetes, COPD, or those who have compromised immune systems. People who are in those categories should right now be staying at home as much as possible and not going out if it is not essential. If you fit into one of those categories, those are the things you should do. And if you have a family member who fits into one of those categories, you should be checking in on them and making sure they are following those guidelines. There's something everyone can do to protect the community from COVID-19.
Welcome back to the Oakland County Megacast on a family of TV and radio stations all throughout the Oakland County area. We're also on the Facebook page today of the West Bloomfield Township Fire Department. And we thank them and their followers for joining us as they have several times before throughout this entire pandemic as we continue to bring you local news and information related to COVID-19 and other information as well, as more and more news continues to break here in 2020. It's just really been an interesting year for things popping up and changes being made, Ronnie.
We're halfway through 2020. I hope the second half gets better.
Yeah, I hope it's one of those situations where it kind of goes like that common meme on the internet where they had us in the first half, not gonna lie. Kind of hoping that's the situation with 2020, especially regarding COVID-19. Well, a lot of different services and municipalities have been shut down or have had to modify and go virtual during the pandemic. That includes our local libraries. We've talked to a couple before that have been gradually reopening, and we're going to talk to another one now locally. We have Clara Borer with us. She is the director of the West Bloomfield Township Public Library with us on the Oakland County Megacast. Clara, thank you for being with us today.
My pleasure.
So how are you? How's your team at the library doing?
We're doing fine. It was interesting. Everybody was eager to come back to work, pretty much. And so we're doing well.
That's good to hear. How long have people been back at work in the library locations?
Well, the governor allowed libraries to begin service on June 8th. And so we brought the staff back in several days before that. Because all the staff had to be sheltering at home. And until the governor allowed the libraries to open, we could not bring any staff except for a few essential workers. So we brought them back about 3-4 days beforehand, and we did all the training that is required before you resume service. So they've been back probably since about June 4th, June 3rd, June 4th.
Clara Borer with us. She's the director of the West Bloomfield Township Public Library. So buildings were closed during the pandemic. They're gradually reopening. So what services remained in place, maybe not in person, but virtually, potentially, during the pandemic? And what services are now gradually starting to come back?
Well, during what we called our virtual phase, when everything was shut down, we are very fortunate to have a very robust collection of what we call virtual services or e-resources. We have e-books, and we have streaming video, and we have e-magazines and e-newspapers. So to a great extent, it was like being in the library with all the resources. We also started a little bit of virtual programming while we were closed. We did some book talking to get people interested in some hot new titles that we were purchasing, and we had some children's story time. So it was a little bit of what it was like when we were open, but we were coming to people in their homes.
Everybody had to make some changes and go virtually. But it's interesting because one of my first interviews at Civic Center TV was actually with you and a couple other members of your library team talking about the importance of technology to the present of the library and to the future of the library to keep it relevant and to keep it fresh and to keep attracting people to the West Bloomfield Township Public Library. Did all of that emphasis on technology come in handy and was it really helpful in making a smooth transition, as smooth as it could possibly be, from the regular operations of the West Bloomfield Library to virtual operations during the pandemic?
Well, the great thing about it is we had the virtual aspect, at least the resource side of it, all along. It was in conjunction with when we were open. So it was nothing to just we just promoted it a little more than we normally would. And we were so surprised that people found those resources to the point that we had to purchase a lot more copies of the ebooks and to meet the demand that we saw once everything got shut down. You know, just before we shut down, we were in what we called our grab and go phase. We really didn't want to close. The library is open 7 days a week. We it's just not in our, I don't know, it's not in our DNA to not be open, and we didn't want to close. But we were getting some pressure from public safety that, it's getting time to close. So we did a grab and go beforehand, and everyone came in and just bags full of books and videos and carried them out. And but that doesn't last very long. And so as that deplenished, and as they read all that or viewed all that, that's when they then had to think, okay, now what do I do next? And that's when they all came to the electronic resources. We went up, I think our usage went up just over 100%. In our e-resources.
Wow, that is amazing. For people in the community that haven't been to this library, you have to go. By far, one of the best resources that we have in the community. It's such a great escape. But I am wondering, because as we start to reopen and people start to read those physical books again, there is a concern with with COVID-19 being on surfaces. We had everyone wiping everything down, spraying their groceries in their bags, things of that nature. What's being done to make sure that the surfaces are clean? Is that just is it in the back of your mind? What are you doing to ensure that it's safe? And also, we heard stories about people actually putting their books in the microwave. I would imagine that's a no-no, right? The microwave is not going to clean your library book.
It isn't. And that's so funny. We read up on this quite a bit, and while we were closed, and we actually participated in a seminar where representatives from the CDC spoke about the cleaning of materials. But what actually, we feel very good about what we're doing, because the Institute for Museum and Library Services, which is the same institution that awarded the National Medal to our library, they paid to have research done. A company out of Ohio, which had access to the live virus. And so what they did is they tested the live virus on library materials to see how long it actually stayed on books and the media that we distribute. And for the books, they need to stay in quarantine for 72 hours. After 72 hours, all the testing showed there was no trace left of the virus. For the media, it was after 24 hours that there was no trace of virus on the media, on the cases and the discs that are associated with the media. So we know this to be from hard scientific research. What we also, though, do, while we put everything in quarantine for the appropriate time length, we do look at the Mylar covers of books, and we will use a solution that the CDC has recommended to just wipe that off. And likewise, we run the discs through a machine that also has that same solution to clean. So I think that the community can feel fairly comfortable when they return materials that we will follow all the guidelines put out that we know to clean the materials properly.
Claire Bohr with us from the West Bloomfield Township Public Library. She's the director of the public library with us on the Oakland County Megacast. Summer reading is a huge part of your summer operations at the library at both locations. There's always a yearly celebration leading into the event and at the end of the summer as well, to celebrate all of our local students getting their summer reading done. What are the plans for the summer of 2020 in regards to summer reading? I'm guessing there's not going to be any in-person celebrations.
We can't have 2,400 people like we normally do gathered at the library. I just heard Chief Flynn talk about that, the gathering and that, and I'm seeing some of the gathering going on and what results from that. So this year, we're going totally virtual with our summer reading program. We put the entire program online, and we are doing our virtual programming with it. The same thing applies. They read. There's activities they can do at home or around their home. There's a reading log for them to keep track. They get reading incentives, and they actually get awarded the books, the free books, for reading X amount of hours. And so they can online pick their little reading incentives, and then they come by through curbside service and pick it up. And hopefully before the summer reading club ends, we will be open to the public so that they can select their award books.
That'd be a really nice thing to be able to do. Hopefully, when this is starting to pass and people are able to be in larger gatherings than they currently are permitted to be in. But in the meantime, in terms of the incentive to complete your summer reading, as opposed to being with physical books on a typical summer, and now with the whole program switching to virtual, do you believe that the students are going to be more likely to engage in their summer reading? Are you expecting there to be more participation this summer than there has been in the past?
Right. We don't know. We'll have to find out. But they do actually have access to all the books here in the library now that we have the curbside services going on. So they don't have to read virtually, electronically. They can actually read books. They can request the books, and they'll be ready for them when they come, when their parents bring them up to pick them up. So it's not all virtual. They still get the books. We don't know what it'll be like. People are registering at the same way they have been, because we've always had a online element to this program. So we will see. That will be something interesting that we'll look at.
Claire Boer with us, the director of the West Bloomfield Township Public Library on the Oakland County Megacast, talking about virtual programs that the library has put in place, including a virtual summer reading program. Claire, for those who are curious about this summer reading program, how can they get more information? How can they register for it? Is it free to the public? Is it only for West Bloomfield residents?
Oh, no. First of all, we never charge for anything at the library, never for anything. This is just for residents of West Bloomfield and our contract communities, which include Keego Harbor, Sylvan Lake, and Orchard Lake. So anybody from those communities and anybody from a school that go to school here in West Bloomfield that are part of the School of Choice program, all those people those kids can register. You can go right online and register, and you can download the materials right online too. If you choose not to download, or you don't have access to maybe a color printer or something, you just have to indicate you'd like to pick up all your summer reading club materials and have them waiting for you at the drive-up window or through our parking lot pickup.
So you mentioned curbside service. Can you expand on that a little bit more? How does that work?
Yeah, sure. So that's what we're opening up in a very gradual, phased way. We've been recommended to do that by our state library, by the Michigan Library Association, and the governor now has a committee that is going to put out soon, I've seen a draft of it, of the best practices for libraries as they open. And so they do all recommend a gradual, phased opening. So we started on June 8th with our curbside services. So you can go online, you can call, you can chat with us, you can email us, you can text us, and you can tell us, I want to read this, or I want this book, or I want this video, or, surprise me with some good new books, or whatever. And we will pull them for you, check them out, and have them ready for you at either the drive-up window, which we've always had and people love, or parking lot pickup. And that's where you just pull in, you call us that you're there, we get all your materials, we bring them out, put them in your trunk, and you're on your way.
Well, thank you very much for being with us today, Clara. Before we let you go, anything else you'd like to touch on?
No, just that someday soon, hopefully middle of the month or a little later, we might begin to let people into the facility,
Well,
which we're really looking forward to seeing all the people, because, you know, we have built up relationships with so many of our users, and we're looking forward to seeing all of them again.
And we're looking forward to being back at the library very soon. Claire Bohr, Director of the West Bloomfield Library, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
We're going to take a short break. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes, and we'll be joined via the telephone by Lynn Sufton, the Public Information Officer from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services on the Oakland County Megacast. We'll give her a call, get her on the air, and be back in just a couple of minutes. You're watching and listening to the Megacast on a family of TV and radio stations.
Hi, my name is Kurt Lawson, and I'm the Public Information Officer for West Bloomfield Township. We wanted to reach out to you, our older adults, to provide information that you may find useful during this difficult time. We want to ensure you that West Bloomfield Town Hall, our Waters and Utility Department, West Bloomfield Parks, and our police and fire departments continue to work hard on your behalf. Information and resources can be found on the Township website, the police Facebook and Twitter, or call West Bloomfield Park's COVID-19 Help Hotline. Please remember to keep your social distance of at least 6 feet, wear facial coverings when you leave your home, and wash your hands for at least 20 seconds with soap. These precautions will help keep you safe during these difficult times.
Michigan, we're calling on you to save lives. Don't ignore it. Don't let it go to voicemail. It's urgent. In fact, it's critical. Because if you've been in close contact with someone who tests positive for COVID-19, you may have been exposed to the virus. And you could get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department. So please answer the call to learn how to protect yourself, your family, and friends. We're calling on you to stop the spread of COVID-19, to make it safe to reopen businesses and help Michigan move forward. So if you get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department, you may have been exposed to someone with COVID-19. To protect us all, answer the call. Learn more at michigan.gov/containcovid. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Welcome back to the Oakland County Megacast on a family of TV and radio stations. I'm Tyler Kieft alongside Ronnie Dahl in the studios of our flagship stations, Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. We're also on Birmingham Area Municipal Access Television, both of our TV stations on Comcast, Channel 15 and AT&T Channel 99. On the radio, 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 WBFH, The Biff, and WAHS 89.5 Avondale Community Radio. 3 great community radio stations in the Oakland County area bringing you the Megacast each and every day. Today, our Facebook partner is the West Bloomfield Township Fire Department on their page via Facebook Live. We thank Chief Greg Flynn and the entire team at the Fire Department for being with us today. And we're also thanking our next guest. We know she's under time constraints, so we'll get her on right now. Lynn Sufton joining us now. She's the Public Information Officer from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services with us on the Oakland County Megacast. Lynn, thank you for being with us today.
Well, I appreciate you having me on.
How are you? How's your team at the Department of Health and Human Services?
Well, we keep connecting via Teams and online because we are all working at home, but it sounds like everybody seems to be healthy and just working very hard on this.
So we've seen a bit of an uptick in COVID-19 cases in Michigan over the last week or so. I haven't heard of a whole lot of hospitalizations, particularly the ones that are being tracked back to Harper's in East Lansing. Is there any reason, to your knowledge, behind why we're seeing these cases uptick, but we're not really hearing a lot about hospitalizations?
Part of that is the age of the cases. We are seeing increases in cases in that, the 20 and 30-year-old range, which, they are not necessarily having as bad of outcomes as individuals who are older or individuals who have underlying health conditions. They can, but they tend not to. So that's why we are, seeing the increase in cases. However, we do know that, they could very easily spread it to those older demographics as well as those individuals with those health issues.
Lynn Sufton with us, the Public Information Officer from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. We saw that in the case of Harper's and East Lansing, there's been a couple other locations in the state of Michigan that have had similar situations, albeit a little less compact. We saw a situation where people were not wearing their masks, were clearly not keeping their social distance, and in the facility we've seen pictures of people that were pretty tightly packed together. Do you believe that the people of Michigan are letting their guard down a little bit, and is that creating a dangerous situation for us potentially with a second wave?
I do believe that there are some individuals who are letting their guard down. They are thinking that we are done, it's over. And I'm here to tell you, we are not done with COVID-19 in Michigan. We are not done with it in the United States, and we are not done with it in the world. So it is still here, and we still need to take precautions to slow that spread of the virus.
We absolutely do. And we talked to Chief Greg Flynn from the West Bloomfield Fire Department earlier about the fatigue that we're getting from this, because we've been in this for so many months now. We've been taking all these precautions. Things have been shut down, and everybody wants to get back out and into the public, but we still need to be really cognizant of the virus being out there and keep in mind the importance that social distancing and face covering wearing is having in preventing the further spread of this virus. How effective are those measures in preventing person-to-person spread?
I don't have any specific percentages right now. I know that there's been quite a few studies, but we do know that they help. Social distancing, getting that 6 or more feet away from other individuals is going to help from, those droplets, those respiratory droplets spreading from one individual to another that simply happen when you're talking, or if you cough or you sneeze. And then the face coverings are also going to help prevent those droplets from, going out into the air and into other individuals. So collectively, they are the best thing we have right now to social distance and wear a mask or face covering. We do not have a vaccine right now. We do not have a recognized cure for this virus. So, individuals who are going out and about, going places, going to restaurants, going to the store, wherever they're going, really need to, take heed of those precautions.
Lynn, one thing we've been seeing and hearing more and more about as the weather has gotten nicer and we're starting to open up new establishments, but some people are forming what they're calling like a quarantine, where maybe they're hanging out with, it could be their neighbors or extended family members. Are those quarantines a good idea? If so, why? If not, why do you not recommend that? And could that also help foster some of these additional cases?
So that's only going to be as good as all the members of the group. So if anybody else goes outside of that group, goes in contact with anybody else, or is not taking precautions at some point in time, that kind of goes out the window. We are just asking people to really be cognizant of where you are, who you're with, how you are, social distancing. Are you maintaining it? Are you wearing a face covering? Those are those things that we have right now. It's what we want, people to use because it's the best thing we have available at this point in time. I realize everybody would like to go back to life as normal again, but unfortunately, this is our new normal right now. Until there is a vaccine, we do need to continue to take these precautions, or we will see cases spread like we have in the case of Harper's.
Michigan's regions 6 and 8 under the Merck regions 6 and 8 have been in phase 5 for several weeks now. Governor Whitmer has previously said that she has been aiming to move the rest of the state into phase 5 on or around July 4th. Are these recent cases, these recent spikes, going to play a role in Governor Whitmer and Dr. Khaldoun's decision to potentially move into phase 5 or delay that move?
I can't speak to what will happen. I do know that it is definitely something that they are looking at very closely. We are working very closely with our local health department partners across the state on this, because we do not want to see these kind of spreads, of the virus or these cases. They have worked very diligently, very quickly to try to track all of these down, which I think will be very helpful in, continuing to slow the spread of the virus. But, it does point out the fact that we can't let our guard down for a moment because, we will start to see these cases spread again.
Lynn Sufton, the Public Information Officer for the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, with us on the Oakland County Megacast. it seems like a lot of these recent spreads of COVID-19, these spikes are being contact traced back to local food and drink establishments. If somebody is noticing a place of business like a restaurant or a bar that's flagrantly violating COVID-19 regulations or rules, how and where should they go to inform an official and report these cases? And how should they address this?
So, the first thing they can do is talk to their local law enforcement. That is the first line of enforcement in the state right now. So that would be something they would want to report to local law enforcement, and then they can take it from there, and they would determine whether there were additional resources needed to be brought in or others contacted. But that would be one way that they would then, make contact with that facility, and talk to them about the situation. I know in many cases it sounds like in Harper, a lot of this was done outside. People waiting in line, not even in the facility, before they even got in there, and not maintaining that social distancing, which is a very difficult thing for anybody to, police or, administer any of those things. So we do know that those things are going to happen. But if somebody sees something that they have concerns about, they can, if they don't feel comfortable talking to, the owner or a manager at the facility, you definitely take it to their local law enforcement.
Lynn Sufton, the Public Information Officer with the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. Just another minute or so with her before we got to let her go. Lynn, the department offers many services and a lot of information to the public about COVID-19 and other health concerns in the state. What are some of these things that are available to the public that are most relevant or most important during our current times, and how can people access them?
So michigan.gov/coronavirus is the website, and there is a great deal of information on anything from what the current status of an executive order is out there to where you can find a location to be tested, to some mental health resources if you are struggling, if you are feeling stressed. There's links to that information and things that you can do. And there's also our COVID-19 hotline, which is also on the website. So if you need to ask somebody a question or be connected to a testing location, you can also call that. So all of that information is available online at michigan.gov/coronavirus.
Well, Lynn, thank you very much for being with us today. Before I let you go, anything else you'd like to touch on or any other important information that we haven't talked about today?
Just as people are going to be out and about for the July 4th holiday or any time this summer, just make sure that you are maintaining that social distancing, wearing a mask, washing your hands with soap and water as often as possible, or using a hand sanitizer. And quite frankly, if you are not feeling well, the best thing you can do for everyone is to simply stay home.
Well, thank you very much for being with us today. Lynn Sufton, the Public Information Officer from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. We appreciate you being with us.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity, and thank you for spreading the word.
Absolutely. It's always our pleasure. Thank you for being with us. Lynn Sufton from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. And Ronnie, a lot more helpful information and important information being spread there. And I have to believe that, and she didn't give any definitive yes or no to the question about whether or not this is going to impact the governor's decision of keeping the state in phase 4, moving it forward to phase 5, or putting more stringent measures back in place. But I got to believe that these recent upticks in cases and people letting their guard down a little bit is going to make the governor take a step back from that declaration or prediction of hers, goal of hers is probably the best word to use, goal of putting the rest of the state beyond Region 6 and 8 into Phase 5 by July 4th.
I think these next couple days are going to be so important because we are going into a holiday weekend. People are off. You also still have a lot of people on unemployment not working, so that's going to add to more and more people getting together and socializing. But if we're not taking those precautions and those numbers continue to rise, like we are seeing in other states, like Arizona, Florida, then that's going to just kind of slide us back to the other phases. And we all want to get back to somewhat of a normal, but we need to just keep maintaining what we've been doing so that we can get a little bit more freedom under this new phase that they're hopefully going into phase 5 soon. I think she said, what, July 4th, the governor said?
Yeah, she was aiming for July 4th to move into phase 5. I was frankly expecting that to be part of her announcement potentially this week as she talks about the return to learn plan, and I was expecting maybe phase 5 to come along with that. Now I'm kind of expecting at 3 o'clock today when the governor speaks, and she'll be live here on Lakes FM. We'll have that press conference for you here live. I'm expecting that to not even be addressed today, other than maybe in the press conference, so in the Q&A portion of the press conference. I don't think we're going to be matching that goal.
There will be a lot of disappointed people.
There will be, but at the same time, I think it's like we've talked about so far. It's been a common theme of today's show that people are kind of getting fatigued with these regulations and with these safety measures that are being put in place. And the more that fatigue's settling in, the more they're kind of letting their guard down. And that's a cause for concern for state officials, for local officials. And there's got to be some more incentive in there to say, like, look, we were going forward, we were pushing forward, we were really close to phase 5, and we've let our guard down a little bit, so we got to delay that a little bit more. So keep at those policies, keep being safe, keep taking those measures that you need to be taking. We know it's tiring, we know it's not fun, we know it's not what you want to be doing, but the more we do it now, the less we have to do it later on as we continue to push toward getting a vaccine.
Do you have a quarantine?
I do not. I mean, I have my immediate family, my brother and my mother and my stepfather live together, and then my father lives in a separate location. So I kind of have that pseudo quarantine, but not one specific that I'm only going to be interacting with, and that's my go-to team.
We see a lot of people in our neighborhood. The kids are all outside playing together, and I always wonder about that because, I mean, we're talking kids that are, 3, 4, 5, up to like 10, 11. They're very active. The weather is super nice right now, so they're outside pretty much all day long. But I guess you could almost look at neighborhoods if you're in somewhat of a small neighborhood that could be somewhat your quarantine, but you have to remember every time someone leaves their home, they could be exposed, even if that is going to the grocery store or going to Target, this, that, and the other.
Yeah, any surface that they touch, any person that they interact with that's outside of the quarantine, and those are all things that happen when you're out in the public. So it's an interesting concept, but whether or not that's the best bet, I mean, it depends on people's lifestyles. So we'll take a quick break. We'll be back after this with Erica Jones out in the field. You are listening to the Oakland County Megacast on our family of stations, including 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake, West Bloomfield, Kego Harbor, Sylvan Lake, 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills, and 89.5 WAHS Auburn Hills. That is WAHS. 89.5 Avondale Community Radio. The Oakland County Megacast returns after this.
Coronavirus has put us to the test. Now it's time to put it to the test. We've greatly expanded testing in Michigan. So people who think they may have COVID-19 with symptoms like fever, cough, and shortness of breath can get tested. And those without symptoms who work in public can now get tested, as they could carry the virus. Start by calling your healthcare provider or contacting a testing site near you. Learn more at michigan.gov/coronavirus test. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Hello, I'm Dr. Betty Chu, Chief Quality Officer at Henry Ford Health System, and I'm with Wright Lassiter, Henry Ford Health System's CEO, to talk about coronavirus.
In uncertain times, it's natural to have questions, so I'm going to ask Dr. Chu to answer some of the common ones. First, why can't I visit my grandma to see if she's okay?
Because the elderly are at a higher risk for complications with this disease, and you could inadvertently infect her.
If I'm healthy, why can't I go out with my friends?
The larger the crowd you're exposed to, the higher the chance you could get infected and infect others.
If I have symptoms, why do I have to seek care?
While the disease isn't dangerous for most people, for others it can be. We need to understand how serious your case is, because the right choices save lives. For more information, visit henryford.com or call 313-874-1055.
Welcome back to the Oakland County Megacast on a family of TV and radio stations on 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 WBFH, The Biff, and on WAHS 89.5 Avondale Community Radio. We're also on Civic Center TV and Birmingham area municipal access, both of those stations on Comcast Channel 15 and AT&T Channel 99. We're also on the web in high definition on CivicCenterTV.com and on the Facebook page of the West Bloomfield Township Fire Department via Facebook Live. And we thank Chief Greg Flynn and the entire team at the West Bloomfield Fire Department for being our Facebook partner on today's edition of the Oakland County Megacast. We have Erica Jones out in the field with us right now, and she's going to join us in just a moment. And then in a few minutes, we'll have Dr. Russell Faust. We just talked with Lynn Sufton from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services about some statewide outbreaks. We'll talk with Dr. Faust about how that's kind of come back locally and some other individual situations in Oakland County in just a few minutes. And then we'll cap off today's show in the last half hour or so of the show with Jerry Rinsler from the League of Women Voters Oakland area, and Debbie Binder will check in at the end of the show for an update on the progress on the U.S. Census and some information you need to know for a local election. So now we'll go to Erica Jones out in the field. Erica, where are you at?
Hi, Tyler. I am at Mask Market in Commerce, where they've been working very hard during this virus to create custom masks. They got some really cool things going on, and I'm here with Mark, one of the owners. Him and his brother own the business, so he's going to talk with us a little bit about what they've been doing and the masks they've been making.
Yeah,
so, hi, thank you for talking with us today.
Thanks.
So just tell us a little bit about some of the masks you've been making and how it's evolved since the pandemic started.
So we have hundreds of different masks that you can choose from on maskmarket.com. We also have masks that you can create. So you could actually design your own mask, create a mask, and then we print it and ship it to you within 24 hours. Like, for example, I actually printed my own face on a mask, put it on there. And then we also do like company masks and different types of masks like that. And every mask that we make, we actually donate a mask. So far, we've donated over 28,000 masks to different nonprofits in the area.
So have the masks with the custom faces on them been popular?
Yeah, definitely. Everyone gets, you try to find a little bit of fun during this time, and people have been, going out and besides wearing the old, boring masks when you have to wear them at the stores, people have been enjoying, a little smile here and there.
Yeah, and then how do your orders work? Do they have to be ordered in bulk, or can you order just one mask if you're getting your face?
Yeah, you could definitely order, even if you upload logo with your company, you could definitely try one, but you get discount rates once you order, more than one. So if you're ordering a custom mask, they're $17.95. If you're ordering one of our pre-made masks, they're $13.90, but our prices go down to around $7.95 if you're ordering multiple masks.
Yeah, so can you tell us, I know we were just looking over here at the TV screen, where you go online to order your masks and how the process works?
Maskmarket.com, and right here you see a custom designer where you can design your own mask. We also have different masks for you to be able to choose from. So if you see here, they're actually made right here in Commerce Township. And you could basically just go on the website, customize a mask, and we'll get it to you within 24 to 48 hours.
That's fantastic. And I know, can you show us this light up one that you're working on?
Yeah, we're working on developing different types of things, like this light up mask that actually, once you talk in it, it looks like you're speaking, smile, and different things like that.
That's fantastic. So those are not available for purchase yet?
No, they should be available in a couple of weeks though.
All right, that's great. And what's the turnaround time from when someone orders a custom mask to when they can expect to receive it?
So we ship them out within 24 hours. So we make them in our facility right here in Commerce Township. We ship them out within 24 hours. So you should get it in 2 to 3 days.
All right, well, that's fantastic. Thank you so much. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us about your business or the different operations that have been going on?
No, thanks. I really appreciate you coming by.
Yeah, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. All right, Tyler.
Well, very interesting report out there. Ronnie and I are just super surprised with that light up mask that has a moving mouth on it too. After you start talking, that's really interesting. I think people are going to definitely be getting on board with that. So, Erica, anything else from out in the field?
No, I think that's it. Just, we were just talking with Ronnie the other day in the studio about these custom face masks, you can put your own face on. So I think it's really cool that we got the opportunity to see them, hands-on and get a little insight into the production of them.
Yeah, definitely, and very interesting to see that those being made, and really cool to know that they're being made right in our backyard here in the local area. So thank you for that report, Erica Jones, out in the field. Erica, our field reporter for us here on the Oakland County Megacast, and Ronnie, just some more ingenuity being shown from throughout the local area. Some interesting stuff going on in terms of creative mask creations, but very interesting visuals from out in the field from Erica there.
I think masks are going to continue to be the hot fashion accessory going forward. So if we have to wear them, then let's have something that gives a little bit of our personality. I love the one that lights up. That is amazing.
I love that concept too. I wasn't entirely on board with it at first because I saw the diagonal line on it that just had lights on it, and it looked interesting, but I also thought like, that's just going to be a distraction for people. But then once he starts talking and you see that there's a symbol of a mouth moving, that it's an instant hook for me. That's just awesome, and really nice to see that those are being made right here in our local area, and that kind of ingenuity still going on with companies all throughout the area here in Oakland County.
Exactly. So while some businesses are going away, others are popping up, and you just have to look for that need in your community, and they did it, and I would imagine that's going to be a huge seller for them, all of the custom masks, because you are seeing it more and more, especially companies with their logos, or you go to Starbucks, they have custom masks now. You go to some of the grocery stores, you're seeing like Kroger has them. Yeah. So a really good business idea, and it's taking off.
It is, and I'm sure we're going to see a lot more of this coming up over the next several weeks and months as this coronavirus pandemic continues on. We're going to take another quick break, let our Zoom producer Larry test our next guest, Dr. Russell Faust, with us, and then we'll come back and talk to Dr. Faust about the COVID-19 outbreaks in the state of Michigan as of late, how they're affecting Oakland County, as well as the situation with Legionnaire's disease at SKLD nursing home facility in Bloomfield Hills. That and more coming up on the Oakland County Megacast. We'll be back after this quick break.
Coronavirus has put us to the test. Now it's time to put it to the test. We've greatly expanded testing in Michigan. So people who think they may have COVID-19 with symptoms like fever, cough, and shortness of breath can get tested. And those without symptoms who work in public can now get tested, as they could carry the virus. Start by calling your healthcare provider or contacting a testing site near you. Learn more at michigan.gov/coronavirus test. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
We know that we're asking Americans to do a lot right now. So we're asking everyone to be selfless for others so that we can protect those who are most susceptible to this virus.
A question I often get asked is, why should young people care about the spread of coronavirus? Well, we know that people with underlying medical conditions over the age of 60 are at highest risk, but they've got to get it from somebody.
Social distancing is really physical separation of people.
It's what we refer to when we ask people to stay at least 6 feet apart.
Not going to bars, not going to restaurants, not going to theaters where there are a lot of people. It all just means physical separation so that you have a space between you and others who might actually be infected or infect you.
We all have a role to play in preventing person-to-person spread of this disease, which can be deadly for vulnerable groups. For more information on how you can social distance, please go to coronavirus.gov.
Welcome back to the Oakland County Megacast on a family of TV and radio stations all throughout the local area. I'm Tyler Kieft alongside Ronnie Dahl in our Lakes FM studios in West Bloomfield. Also joined by Birmingham Area Municipal Access in Birmingham, Bingham Farms, Beverly Hills, and the Village of Franklin. On 88.1 WBFH, the Biff out of Bloomfield Hills, and WAHS 89.5, Avondale Community Radio, a service of Avondale Schools. with operations out of Avondale High School. And big thank you to Marty Schaefer and Keith Fraley keeping us on the air each and every day over at WAHS. Also, big thank you to Chief Greg Flynn and his team at the West Bloomfield Fire Department, who are our Facebook partners today on the Oakland County Megacast. And now joining us from the Oakland County Health Department, we were joined by the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, now by the Oakland County Health Department, is their medical director, Dr. Russell Faust, with us on the Megacast. Dr. Faust, thank you for being with us again.
Good morning. Thanks for the invitation to be here.
Well, thank you for being with us. How are you? How's your team at the health department doing?
We are doing well. We're keeping up.
That's good to hear, as always. We've had some recent spikes in the local area and all throughout the state in various different areas of COVID-19 cases. Of course, most notably, it's the cases that have come from Harper's Brew Pub in East Lansing and then travel out to Grosse Pointe and other areas. But we've also seen some other COVID-19 outbreaks throughout the state, including 3 individuals who tested positive for COVID-19 at Royal Oaks 5th Avenue. What does it look like? It seems like we're seeing a lot of food and restaurant establishments lately, bars, that are the place where these outbreaks are beginning. Do you believe there's a certain reason behind that?
Well, I mean, certainly we're all pretty fed up with being imprisoned in our homes for the last 3 months, maybe more. And, I can certainly understand the frustration of the younger generation for wanting to get out and visit with their friends, go out for a drink and get close with their buddies. And I think as kind of things have been opened up, there's been an overreaction. The pendulum has swung a little bit too far in the other direction, and that I don't think the social distancing and mask wearing has kept up with these crowds of folks going out. I think the other challenge is that the younger generation sees this as an old person's disease. That is, they're young and immortal. Even if they do get sick, maybe the symptoms are relatively minor. And therefore, when they go out, they're complacent. They're not being vigilant about maintaining social distance. They're not being vigilant about wearing a mask. But I do want to emphasize, we have had fatalities down to the level of infants. We've had too many fatalities in their 20s. So this is not just an old person's disease or an old person's fatality risk.
Dr. Russell Faust with us, the medical director at the Oakland County Health Department.
Dr. Faust, quick question. Why aren't we seeing a number of these cases connected to all of the protests? Because in those cases, you had thousands of people gathered together, and while most of them were wearing masks, we're not seeing a spike in the cases of the protesters. Why do you think that is?
It's a great question. I'm so glad somebody asked that. Our risk of becoming infected, of contracting COVID-19 while outdoors when there's, breeze of fresh air is so much less, even without PPE, even without social distancing and without masks. It's so much reduced versus being shoulder to shoulder in a stagnant indoor environment. And I think, I've noted, I think several, media outlets have noted a lack of outbreaks despite the protests, plus or minus PPE. So I think being indoors and being in close proximity without a mask is a much greater risk. We know that this is transmitted by respiratory droplet. So respiratory droplet from speech, yelling, singing, travels out as far as 6 feet. We know that well now. And if you're outdoors, the breeze will take that away. If you're indoors, you need to just practice those 2 simple behaviors: social distancing, wearing a mask.
Dr. Faust, do you believe that people are starting to let their guards down with this? Because we have seen, especially in places where we've had these outbreaks contact traced back to that people were not wearing their masks. For example, again, at Harper's in East Lansing, people were not wearing their masks. They were not social distancing. We're seeing people now we've seen some people in grocery stores now not wearing their masks anymore, and maybe it's not being entirely enforced, and that could cause some problems. Do you think that people are letting their guard down, and what kind of dangerous precedent does that set for us going forward as we're continuing to try to battle our way out of this pandemic?
Yeah, I agree. People are definitely letting their guard down. There's certainly an attitude of complacency, as I say. People are fed up. They've been locked away for months, and they want to get out. And I understand that wearing a mask is a hassle, to say the least. I hate wearing a mask. It's uncomfortable. And trust me, I've been at the very worst extreme of that, because I've been out on our drive-up testing sites, out on a black asphalt parking lot, wearing not only a mask, but a full face shield, a full gown, and gloves. And that's just miserable. I think compared to that, wearing a simple cloth face cover to be able to go out in public is a small price to pay to keep yourself and your friends and loved ones safe. It is a sign of complacency. From my perspective, you wearing a mask when you're out simply shows respect and concern for others around you. It's the person wearing the mask is protecting those around them, really, not vice versa. They're not really protecting themselves. Studies have shown that if you are infected, but you're wearing a mask, there's still a fairly high likelihood of transmission to somebody next to you not wearing a mask, maybe 70%. If that person, if the person exposed to you is wearing a mask and you're not, there's a very high likelihood of transmission. If the person who is infected is wearing the mask and the other one is not, it drops that risk of infection significantly, maybe down to 5 or 10%. And if you're both wearing a mask, the risk of transmission, if you're within the 6 feet social distance, is 1 or 2%. So this can make a difference. We can put an end to this.
What are your thoughts about testing, the antibody testing, not just the COVID testing to see if you do indeed have it at this point in time, but what about the antibody testing? Should people get that done?
Yeah, let's be very clear. There's a couple kinds of antibody tests. There is what was available early on and is still being pushed by a number of folks, including some drugstores, for example, because they've invested heavily in these rapid antibody tests. Not one of those has been shown to be reliable by CDC or FDA. So none of those is reliable. I have personally tested 3 different brands of those on folks who are clearly COVID positive, have not had an accurate result from any of them. There are over 100 brands of those now out in the market, and people are pushing those because they're trying to recover their investment. Recently, there are now true serology tests. It's not just a finger poke and a little card to read those. We're talking a real blood draw. Tourniquet, drawing a couple tubes of blood, spinning that down, sending that to the lab, and they're doing antibody titers. So they're looking for actual levels, quantitative levels for antibodies such as IgM, IgA, IgG, and these are reasonable. Let me be clear, though. These are still emergency use authorization. These are still investigative. So all of these studies are, in fact, studies. They're clinical trials. So a number of the hospitals locally, regionally, are conducting clinical trials for serology, for antibody levels. There are a number of local groups that have contracted to do clinical studies with folks like the Mayo Clinic. So there are a number of those studies ongoing right now. CDC is conducting a study down in Detroit to look at serology. They're doing it through the blood bank. So folks that have donated blood, they're looking at antibody levels in those blood donations. But none of these are the rapid tests. So none of the rapid tests are reliable. None of the serology tests, rapid or otherwise, are diagnostic. They don't diagnose that you have COVID-19. They're merely trying to determine whether or not, after being infected with COVID-19, whether people are producing antibodies. And the next question is, if you do produce antibodies, is it at all protective? Does it provide any level of immunity? And we just have more and more questions. None of these have been answered yet. That's why CDC and others are conducting these clinical trials right now.
Dr. Russell Faust with us. He's the medical director at the Oakland County Health Department. With us on the Oakland County Megacast. Just a few more minutes with you, Dr. Faust, before we have to let you go. We did hear reports today that came in that the Oakland County Health Department's been investigating since June 8th a resident at a local nursing home in Bloomfield Hills, SKLD, contracting Legionnaire's disease. The first round of samples came back negative. Can you tell us a little bit about the situation at SKLD with Legionnaire's disease and whether or not there is a concern that this may be in the water at this nursing home facility?
Great question. So yes, we are investigating that site in Bloomfield Hills. So the individual that became infected with Legionnaire's disease, or Legionella pneumophila, has not been out of that facility during the incubation period. So this becomes what is known by the CDC, classified as a presumptive facility or healthcare facility associated case. When that occurs, we conduct an investigation. Environmental health team here at Oakland County Health Division conducts an investigation. The initial investigation had gone out and collected water samples, and they do things like they collect samples from a variety of water sources: the showers, the sinks, the water fountains, the ice makers, hot and cold water mains, etc., from sites like that. All of those initial samples were negative for Legionella. That doesn't mean Legionella is not in that facility someplace. It is encouraging that it's not readily findable in that facility someplace. But let me clarify. Legionella pneumophila is one of these bacteria that is widespread in water sources. That is, it's essentially everywhere. The chances are that if we went out and investigated the shower head in your apartment or your home, the likelihood is that we would find Legionella or Mycobacteria, non-tuberculous Mycobacteria species, similarly infectious. So while concerning, at least we're encouraged that we haven't found Legionella in those initial samples. And we are following up now and broadening that inspection right now to see if there are other potential sources in that facility. There have been no additional individuals infected in that facility.
And Dr. Faust, that is good news, of course, and you continue to take more and more tests around the area. With it being centered in a nursing home in the local area, and with the symptoms being so concerned, so close to those of COVID-19, is that a cause for extra precautions being taken and extra focus on this to make sure that this is not, in fact, a COVID-19 outbreak?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, let's just broaden that out. It's not just other respiratory diseases like Legionella. But there's quite a list of causes for other respiratory infections, including influenzas and other respiratory viruses, adenovirus, rhinovirus, and others. So those are a concern, and those are ruled out. And so now when someone does show up at the emergency room, just as, back in March, they do what's referred to by ED physicians as a respiratory panel, and they check for adenovirus, RSV, the other respiratory virus, influenza. They do a rapid flu test, and they do a urine antigen check for evidence of a Legionella infection. So yes, they go through and do these things in addition to a COVID-19 test now. And we're basically adding COVID to your standard respiratory panel now because it's widespread in our community. It's certainly on the suspect list. And that's going to be a complication, honestly, as we head back into flu season. This is going to be a challenge, a diagnostic challenge in our physicians' offices, clinics, urgent cares, and emergency rooms.
Dr. Russell,
fortunately, we have the tools now. We have the test.
Dr. Russell Faust with us from the Oakland County Health Department. He is their medical director. Dr. Faust, before we let you go, anything else you'd like to touch on today?
No, I just want to emphasize that this is not rocket science. You know, we can put a stop to this. This is not the time to be complacent as things open up. This is the time for continued vigilance. Masks and social distancing, simple solutions. We can put a stop to this. We're going to save lives if we simply practice these two behaviors. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you for being with us today. We appreciate it. Dr. Russell Faust with us on the Oakland County Megacast. And again, just those extra precautions need to be continue to be taken, Ronnie, because people are kind of letting their guard down, and we're seeing what happens when you let your guard down with a disease as severe as COVID-19.
Great and important information that he shared with us. And I also like when you can get explanations to your questions from the people that have the knowledge to share that, especially the one being with the protests. We have thousands and thousands of people have been out for a month now protesting. So a lot of people have been questioning why the uptick in the cases aren't being tracked back to the protesters. But he had a great explanation, and it's great to get that from someone with his knowledge.
It absolutely is, and we'll hopefully be able to talk to him more throughout this entire process, and we'll hear from County Executive David Coulter tomorrow about more on these topics as well. We're going to take another quick break, and when we come back, we'll be joined by Jerry Rinsler, who is the Vice President of Community Engagement and Marketing for the League of Women Voters Oakland area. You are watching and listening to the Oakland County Megacast. Ronnie and I will be back in just a moment.
Michigan, we still need to stay careful because we don't want to go backwards, back to where we started. So keep standing 6 feet apart. Keep wearing a mask in public. And if you have symptoms, talk to a healthcare provider about getting tested. To move forward, let's all do our part. So stay careful. Michigan.gov/coronavirus.
Hello, I'm Dr. Faust, Medical Director for the Oakland County Health Division. Coronavirus disease 2019, or COVID-19, is a new disease caused by a new respiratory virus named SARS-CoV-2. COVID-19 was first identified in December 2019. There is currently no vaccine to prevent coronavirus disease 2019. The best way to prevent illness is to avoid being exposed to this virus. Wash your hands often with soap and water for at least 20 seconds, especially after going to the bathroom, before eating, and after blowing your nose, coughing, or sneezing. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects and surfaces using a regular household cleaning spray or wipe. Avoid close contact with people who are sick, and avoid touching your eyes, your nose, your mouth. Cover your cough or sneeze with a tissue, then throw the tissue in the trash. Finally, stay home when you're sick. For more information about coronavirus disease 2019, go to oakgov.com/health or call 1-800-848-5533.
Welcome back to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe alongside Ronnie Dahl and a family of TV and radio stations and other media outlets all throughout the local area, bringing you all the news that you need to know from around the Oakland County area regarding coronavirus and other key topics going on right now, and we'll continue to do that all throughout the summer and going forward here on our flagship stations, Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM, as well as our partnering stations, Birmingham Area Municipal Access, 88.1 The Biff, and WAHS 89.5 Avondale Community Radio. We're also today on the Facebook page of the West Bloomfield Township Fire Department, and thank them for joining us today, as they have so many times before throughout this pandemic. Later on today, 3 o'clock p.m. right here on Lakes FM and on Civic Center TV, we will have Governor Whitmer's press conference live. It's expected that she's going to reveal her plan from based on the suggestions of the Michigan Return to Learn Council regarding reopening of schools in the fall. So we'll have that for you at 3 o'clock, and maybe she'll have some news regarding when or if we're going to move in to Phase 5 in the rest of the state. Regions 6 and 8 in the Traverse City area and in the Upper Peninsula are already in Phase 5. So that's just one of those issues that are currently going around in our state right now. But it's still 2020. It's an election year, and to talk about that, we have with us now Jerry Rinsler, who is the Vice President of Community Engagement and Marketing for the League of Women Voters Oakland area. Jerry, thank you for being with us today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Well, yeah, thank you for being with us. How are you? How's your team at the League of Women Voters Oakland area?
Well, this is busy season. Prior to a primary, I think the two cornerstones of our league, the League of Women Voters Michigan as well as Oakland County, is providing information to voters, making it nonpartisan and accessible, whether it's, where do you go to vote, when. Right now, we're looking at sharing information because we're going to have an extraordinary number of folks voting absentee, likely for the very first time. And what we're hearing from the clerks in the county is the percentages they're expecting in the August primary, as well as November. The applications that are coming in for those ballots range from 70% to 90% higher than what they've seen in the past. So we're working as hard and quickly as we can because ballots are in the mail. I know one of our members received their ballot yesterday. So they should be distributed this week in Oakland County.
We have primaries coming up. We also have the general election in November, and your organization does help to prepare the community for those elections. One of the key ways, one of the cornerstones of that preparation, those materials that you provide, are these candidate forums for local elections. Go into tell us a little bit about what those candidate forums are, what the League of Women Voters Oakland area offers in terms of these, and where people can get this information.
Sure. Well, prior to COVID years, we would do in-person candidate forums in contested races. We really don't have a large enough staff to do a public candidate forum for all the 60 plus municipalities, and then we've got 28 school districts in the county. And so we do try to reach as many of those as possible. When we realized we could no longer meet in person, we thought long and hard, and we did decide to do them in a Zoom format. So if you were to go to our website, wvoa.org, you can click on the link on the front page, and it will bring up all the forums that we've completed in the month of June, and then also give you a schedule for the two that we're doing in July, and we've already got one scheduled for September. So first time for us, although we have done in-person candidate forums for probably 30, 40 years in this part of the county. It seems to be working well. Our only disappointment is some candidates, a minority of them, are not comfortable with Zoom. And hopefully, as we get closer to November, we will find that this has certainly become part of everyone's life right now, that we'll have a really great turnout. So we are doing that, but at the same time, we do have another committee that distributes a questionnaire to anyone who's running for office in the primary, and those running for office in November will receive one also, with questions that are written for those specific communities by our members, our nonpartisan volunteer members. And there's a limited number of words. So if you go to our website, or the one thing we are really trying to promote is something called vote411.org. You go to that site, put in your zip code, and you should be able to see a copy of the ballot, the primary, as well as later on for November.
Jerry Rinsler with us, the Vice President of Community Engagement and Marketing for the League of Women Voters, Oakland area. So Jerry, in terms of these candidate forms, what do they provide to voters that they wouldn't otherwise get in terms of their own research or other interactions with the candidates?
Well, again, with COVID, candidates really don't have the opportunity to go door knocking, to meet all their constituents on a daily basis. And if you were to talk to any political consultant advising candidates, I mean, I've been assisting with these for quite a long time. The number one advice that a political consultant will give to any candidate is the way to win the race is to door knock. And so that's really not available to them. So this way, they will have that opportunity to actually see the candidate on camera. So these are being recorded as we've done in the past, and also will be distributed through cable, but you can view those online, as well as the responses from the candidates. So those responses for the primary candidates are already there. So you get two opportunities. And I should give a plug for our paper voter guides, which hopefully you've seen in the past. We distribute them to our clerk's offices and the libraries, and sometimes some other public facilities such as senior centers. And our hope is that we've got enough funds in our bank account to be able to print those. And we're going to be collaborating with another organization to make that happen. So everything we do is really based on donations and our membership dues.
Politics right now seem to be so polarizing in our community. Do you think that's going to increase voter turnout or decrease it?
I'm guessing a couple things. I know, as we have all been concerned about polarization, I'll speak for myself, as I have been, but I think COVID is also playing a part. I think folks have more time now to read about candidates. They're certainly seeing protests and conversation about democracy, and the way to make change is to vote. So, our slogan has always been, and one of our past presidents, Jerry Burton, always will repeat it. I think he even has a T-shirt that says it, that democracy is not a spectator sport. And that's something we put on some of our literature and repeat. So I think also the third part of the answer would be, since our state did, and our constituents in the state, our voters, did support changes to voting laws, where now anyone can apply to get, who's registered, can apply to get a absentee ballot sent to their home. So before, there was a restriction. You had to declare whether you were out of town, whether, and you needed to be above, I believe it was 60 years of age. So I think we've got a couple things going on here that are all contributing to voter turnout, which is a really good thing. It's something we've been advocating since we were founded 101 years ago.
Jerry Rensler with us. She is the Vice President of Community Engagement and Marketing at the League of Women Voters, Oakland area. So in terms of the format of these candidate forums, are these simple question and answer? Is it
Yes.
statements from each candidate? Is there any
Yes.
public involvement in them?
We do have a way to send questions in advance. So they're not doing a full screen of voters being able to have that personal exchange. But there are ways to send questions in. And some of our league members are providing some of those questions. Usually our league members who are the most familiar with a certain part of the county and are following the challenges that are going on in specific municipalities will write questions as well. So, and they've always done that, even when we met in person. If we didn't have enough of the public sitting in the audience, we would always have some backup questions, as we used to. If you've attended any, know that we would always hand out a 3x5 card and pencils. Please put your question on a piece of paper. So it's a little different. It's working well, and yes, we are giving them time. The other thing that we have found, if someone has a conflict, we're allowing them, or for whatever reason they can't get on Zoom, we're allowing them to send in a statement that our facilitator reads. And so we have a number of different folks facilitating the different forums right now.
Jerry Rensler with us. She is the Vice President of Community Engagement and Marketing at the League of Women Voters, Oakland area. Jerry, you are also one of the founding members of the Women Officials Network Foundation. What does that organization do? What functions does it serve? And who can get involved?
Well, it's interesting. If you look at both organizations, we are similar. We're both nonpartisan. We're both membership organizations. But the difference is with the Women Officials Network, which was started back in 1997 by former State Representative Pan Godchow and a league member, Barb Morehouse, who really were concerned about the low numbers of females serving in Congress, but more specifically in Lansing. And so a number of us sat down at their invitation to come up with some bylaws and design a format. And it started with women who were elected to office or had previously been elected to office. So now we have expanded that to anyone who'd like to join us. And we have a few male members. We try to encourage more members from that gender to join us and support women. So our goals are to provide a network of support to women, but also help them as leaders in the public sector. So usually we change the months that we have open meetings to the public. And those are generally September, December, March, and June. We most of the time invite speakers who will share information either in the way of giving advice to someone who's running for office or sharing an experience of what their struggles were and challenges when they were out in the field knocking doors or trying to get elected. And we also really look to support those women who have run and were not successful. So we're bringing folks together. There is a membership fee, although you don't need to be a member to attend. And right now we're doing those free, as they are going to be Zoom meetings. And in conversation with our new president, Nancy Philippart, we think we're going to be planning Zoom meetings for quite a while, at least through December. So we're just at the beginning of putting together some speakers. I happen to also be the program chair for that organization. And it's really been successful, as we're still here celebrating our, we did have a 25th celebration not too long ago. But the one thing that is really a positive experience for all of our members is we really don't talk about politics when it comes to partisan politics. It's generally off the table. When we invite a panel to speak, we make sure if they're affiliated with one party, we invite someone from the other party. And we've been holding steadfast on that. We have been fortunate over the years to have our Michigan Supreme Court justices present to us. Last year we had female mayors in Oakland County do a presentation and share with us what their life is like, and sometimes mayor of a government board of mostly males. So it's really a sharing, bringing together folks. As if you look at the numbers, we're starting to make some progress, but the percentages of women elected to office at the state level is quite low.
Jerry, one last question for you. Mail-in ballots have become such a hot topic issue.
Yes,
Do
right.
you feel this is going to open up elections to fraud? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, that is interesting. Let's see, last year, we co-sponsored a panel where Tina Barton, who is the clerk from Rochester Hills, and also she's a liaison to a committee in Washington, D.C. that has been investigating fraud. One of the other things I've been fortunate to do is I was appointed to an Oakland County Election Advisory Council, and we've been meeting weekly for a lot of reasons. One of them is to find out what the needs are of the clerks in Oakland County. So we've got the clerks from Rose Township, Ferndale, Royal Oak, and Lathrop Village. So different sized municipalities with different needs. I feel very comfortable that the county is taking all the necessary steps to make sure that these are all counted and safely counted in a timely fashion. And the one thing that we are concerned about is getting that message out so that the voters do feel confident. I'm not worried. I don't think anyone on our council is worried about fraud. The biggest component of concern that or message that we'd like to get to the voters because of COVID. You've all noticed our mail is not coming in quite the timely fashion it had been. So voters, if they're planning to mail those back in, they really should not wait till the day before, because those AVs are counted once they get to the clerk.
Right.
And there's confusion about the postmark. So if those are some of the things our league is trying to get information and share. And I know the county is putting together an ad. We're working on some postcards from the League of Women Voters, but those will be distributed closer to the November election.
Well, we'll stay right on top of this, Jerry, and hopefully we'll be able to talk to you again before those elections occur. We do have to let you go now. We have one more person right behind you, so we thank you for being with us today.
Well, I sure appreciate the opportunity, and stay well.
You as well. Thank you very much. Jerry Rinsler with us on the Oakland County Megacast. One more quick break, and we'll be back with Debbie Binder, the West Bloomfield Township Clerk. You're listening to the Megacast.
Michigan, we still need to stay careful because we don't want to go backwards, back to where we started. So keep standing 6 feet apart. Keep wearing a mask in public. And if you have symptoms, talk to a healthcare provider about getting tested. To move forward, let's all do our part. So stay careful. Michigan.gov/coronavirus.
Welcome back to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe alongside Ronnie Dahl in our studios at 89.3 Lakes FM and at Civic Center TV. Just a couple more minutes left in today's program. We're now joined by West Bloomfield Township Clerk Debbie Binder on the Oakland County Megacast, coming to us from Town Hall. Debbie, how are you today?
Good. How are you today, Tyler?
I'm doing well, and we have some upcoming elections on the docket, and we also have the U.S. Census still in play right now. So in terms of these upcoming elections, what are some things that local residents need to be prepared for?
With everything in mind, one of the things I would say is be prepared. The earlier you get things taken care of, the better. It avoids lines, and we know right now everyone's trying to avoid, extra contact. So remember, everybody with Proposal 3 has the right to vote by absentee ballot. Everybody, no reason. Those absentee ballots are in now. If you come to Town Hall, we can get you an absentee ballot. You bring in an application, or we'll give you an application, fill it out, we'll give you an absentee ballot. One thing I want to remind people on that ballot is in a primary, you have to vote one side or the other, one party or the other, and they're both on the same ballot. We have already had quite a few people come in to spoil their ballots, which is always an option, but we like to educate the voter ahead of time to know that you have to vote down one side. If you do cross over, it spoils your partisan section of your ballot. Not your entire ballot. A nonpartisan section would still count, but it would invalidate your partisan section. So please make sure you stay down one side in a primary. Important reminder.
In terms of the primary versus the general in November, any key differences that the public should be aware of as they prepare for one versus the other?
Well, in a general election, like I just had mentioned in a primary, that you need to vote down one side of the ballot because you're really selecting who's going to represent the parties for the general election. In a general election, you can vote whichever side of the ballot you want. You can vote by the individual. And if you do vote straight party, but you wanted to cross over on one or two or however many you wanted to vote on the other side, that will override the choices you made if you vote straight party, only on those selections and on those contests. So that's always an option people need to remember. And people who vote absentee, if you do need to spoil your ballot, that is something that's your right also. You can contact the clerk's office and we will spoil the ballot you were issued and issue you a new one. So any questions about voting or anything, please get in touch with the clerk's office. The biggest thing that I would say, and I know Jerry touched on this, is don't wait till last minute. The mail right now with COVID has been a little bit less predictable. And we know if we have a lot of same-day registrants, we'll have a long line. So try to plan ahead, and but we would of course not deny anybody their right to register on the same day and to vote by absentee ballot. But just again, try to plan ahead for ease and for being safer in a safer environment.
Debbie, just another minute with you before we have to let you go and wrap up today's show. On the census front, the suburbs of Metro Detroit are doing really well right now in filling out their U.S. Census. Give us an update on how West Bloomfield and surrounding areas are doing right now.
I'm glad you asked, Tyler. We have surpassed our 2010 total turnout, which was 77.3. We are at 77.6% turnout, and we are still, but we've gone between 120 and 121 in the state in terms of our self-response. So we've stayed kind of consistent with our place in the state, but we have had other nearby communities already between 2 and 4% beyond their 2010 numbers. And I do believe we are a community that could do that. If we get everybody responding to that census and self-reporting, we should have numbers that outperform our 2010 numbers. And I encourage everybody, you can respond by phone, you can respond by mail, and you can respond online. And it is quick and easy. It's 9 questions. It takes a matter of minutes, and it's money that comes into your community. Every person represented brings about $18,000 over the 10-year period of the census, or $1,800 a year. When we're looking at money we're getting back right now for COVID recovery, that is based on our census numbers. So I can't stress enough how important those census numbers are in having everyone counted and represented. So if you haven't participated yet, please do. You have until October 31st to fill out that, to complete your census questionnaire. Please don't wait, but please make sure you do it, and you do have until October 31st. I'd like to see that number go up quicker than it's going up lately. It's been hovering at 77.6 for too many days now.
Well, Debbie, we thank you very much for being with us. We do have to go. Thank you very much for joining us today, and thank everyone for tuning in. This has been the Oakland County Megacast. Ronnie and I will return tomorrow.